Okay, so some quick introductions. My name is Ernest. I am the president of the Patterson Park Neighborhood Association. Welcome to all of you. I'm going to do some quick introductions for other members of the board of PBNA here. We have in the room here, we have Abram, who is actually, I'm going to do this. Nope, not that one. Here we go. Oh, and the Zoom, you don't know what I'm talking about because I didn't share screen. I swear I will figure this out. All right. So this is how the Patterson Park Neighborhood Association boards are divided up. Abram over there is your VP representing the East Sector. And we also have in the room with us Kelly Poole, who represents South Sector over there. Yep. And we also have VPs who represent the West Sector and the Patterson Place sector. They are not here right now. One I believe is actually traveling. And then in addition to that, we have our secretary.
I'm here. Hey, Ernest.
Oh, hey, Lindsay. So that is Lindsay, who represents the West Sector. Elena is our secretary. She will be keeping me on track because we have a lot to get through. And for those of you who have not been to these meetings before, you should know the library closes at 8 and they're very serious about it. They will turn off the lights and send people in uniforms in to kick us out if we stay here too long. So we got to move along. All right. So
North Sector?
There is not one. If you know anybody who lives in that North Sector and who would like to participate, let us know. We would love to have you. Quick housekeeping note here. So we're about to talk about two issues. And at the end of each one, we are going to potentially take a vote as to the official position of Patterson Park Neighborhood Association. The way votes work is that in order to vote, you must be a resident within these boundaries. Now, I'm not going to start going around asking to see your driver's license and all of that. It's going to be the honor system. But just know that if you do not live within these boundaries, you are not a voting member as far as, that decision. You're welcome to express your opinion. We would love to hear from you. Just can't. Yes.
I'll take a can start. We can be done with intros.
Okay. So first item on the agenda is what's called the Abundant Housing Act. Now, this is a bill which was put forth by Councilman Ryan Dorsey. It is also co-sponsored by several council members, including our own Zeke Cohen. The thing that has caught a lot of people's attention with the Abundant Housing Act is that what it's doing is it's trying to reduce single-family housing and convert more of them into multi-unit housing. Now, there's a little bit of misunderstanding around exactly how this works. So let me just say that for the rest right now, I'm going to try to give an objective, factual statement of what it does. And for the rest of this meeting, you should consider me to be like a discussion facilitator, and I'm not trying to push one way or another. I am really interested in what you want to know. And right now, I'm going to try not to. Now, that being said, so the way this works is, okay, here we go. If there is a dwelling which has 1,500 square feet, it can be converted into a 2-unit dwelling. A house with 2,250 square feet can be converted into 3. And a house with 3,000 square feet can be converted into 4. There is also an additional dwelling. There's also an additional unit that can be added if that house is located in certain areas that have amenities, and those include community accessible transit, grocery store of at least 10,000 feet, and a main street as defined by certain places else in the code. So there has been some stuff going out there saying like this could lead to houses which have as many as 5 dwellings within them, which is true. if it is a 3,000 square foot dwelling within close proximity to accessible transit, a grocery store, and a main street. In favor of this bill, what Councilman Dorsey has argued is that Baltimore has a housing shortage, especially in areas where people want to live. And so in certain, I don't know what all that beeping is, I'm sorry, but in certain areas, there are people who want to move in, but rents have been skyrocketing because there is just not enough housing stock. There are certain places where there are just lots of big houses, and zoning codes currently do not permit those to be split up into multiple units. There are also other areas where there are vacant houses, and economically it does not make sense to try to rehab those unless you can also convert them into multi-unit dwellings. That is the case in favor. The case that people make against it is that this is going to encourage some overcrowding. It is also, they also point out that there are covenants in certain parts of the city which will override this. So in the northeast area, such as Roland Park, Homeland, Guilford, there are these covenants in place, which even if the Abundant Housing Act comes in, those covenants will prevent houses in that area from being converted into multi-unit dwellings. It is worth noting these covenants were put in place during a time when white people were trying to keep Black people out of their neighborhoods. There is also, you know, you could also make the case that some of those covenants should be challenged and should be thrown out. I don't think that necessarily the passage of the Abundant Housing Act is going to do that, but I am not a lawyer. I don't know exactly how that's going to work. And then another argument that people make against the Abundant Housing Act is that what we need is to make is that we should concentrate on home ownership instead of making lots more rental units available. There are probably other thoughts that you may have. This is just what I did on a quick Google looking through everything. That being said, as I said, our own Councilman Zeke Cohen is a co-sponsor of the bill. One of his staff members is Ethan up here. I'm actually going to stop sharing this so we can see everybody. Okay, good. And yeah, before I open it up to everybody else, I asked Ethan to prepare some other remarks if you know, if you have some talking points that you want to deliver to us as well, Ethan.
Yeah, happy to talk about it a little bit. Thanks, Ernest. And by the way, I don't think I got to completely introduce myself before for those who I haven't met. And I think I can see most folks in the room. I've met a bunch of you. I'm Ethan Hasek. I'm the Legislative and Community Affairs Director for Councilmember Cohen. Been in this job for almost a year now. And really appreciate, Ernest, you giving an overview of the bill and sharing some of the arguments in favor and in opposition, and for just like really doing a deep dive on what the bill says. You're correct that Councilmember Cohen has co-sponsored this bill. I think really where that's coming from is we share Councilman Dorsey's concern about lack of housing affordability and the need to make you know, affordable housing more accessible in Baltimore City and open up housing so that it's just, you know, more affordable and available to all. I think we also agree pretty fundamentally with the need to build the city in a sustainable way around frequent transit, as the bill proposes to do. All that being said, I think Zeke and our office are really interested in engaging with some of the criticism brought up by community members and working to improve the bill accordingly. So I'm really here to listen and hear how Patterson Park feels about it, hear how y'all feel about it. The bill, first of all, one thing I'll say is we just, in this council term up through the election and the changeover of the council members in December 2024. We just don't really see a path to this bill passing. So that's one thing to mention, one thing to keep in mind. But we're going to continue to work on it, and the discussion will be ongoing. So really want to hear your thoughts and work to improve the bill in a way that lifts all neighborhoods and grows the city in a sustainable and inclusive way. So really looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts. And I'm happy to answer any specific questions that come up.
Okay, so the way we're going to proceed is that if you have a comment, please raise your hand, and in the Zoom, please use the raise hand function. If you're in the room, please also, before you begin your comments, just say what your name is. I'm probably going to forget it, I'm sorry, but just so we can try to. And I saw you first, so please go ahead, tell us your name, please. Okay, well, if you could please introduce yourself.
I will. My name is Cheryl Bryant, and I'm the chair of the Friends of Library Square Committee, which is under PPNA. I'm also the executive director of Charm City Land Trust. I am not in favor of this bill. The statement that Baltimore has a housing shortage is untrue, because we have plenty of houses, they're just vacant. And we need a plan to get these vacant houses done. I work closely with the Department of Housing and Community Development, and we have received a lot of grant funding from them. However, the max they will give us is 50% for building and renovating these vacant houses. And we have to raise the rest of the money. So there are plenty of houses there, and there are about 12 other land trust organizations that are doing this work in the area. But that's where I think the city needs to focus more on the vacant houses and getting people to move into some of the neighborhoods where those vacant houses are, instead of putting a bunch more people in neighborhoods like ours. I don't want to see a house my size with 2 families living in it. It's barely enough room for me and mine. But that's my stand.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
your name,
I'm
please.
Jason, I live on Milton Avenue. And yeah, I mean, I consider myself very left-wing, and trying to say that more landlords is our solution in Baltimore is probably the most right-wing idea I've ever heard. Like, you're trying to say privatization of families' homes is going to like fix the housing crisis. Like the idea that we're saying some parts of Baltimore has become so decrepit that we're gonna give up on them, shove more people into the nice parts of Baltimore is absurd. We could add hundreds of thousands, like this city literally had over 1 million people. Like we have hundreds of thousands of available space where people literally used to live right here. We're saying, screw all that, go live on top of my house. Like is an absolutely silly idea. So I'm not in favor of this.
Okay. There were 3 hands up in the room. There was, I believe, at least one other. Yeah, your name, please.
My name is Dave. I have a clarifying question more than a statement.
Okay.
You mentioned that the currently zoning doesn't allow the conversion of single family and multifamily. And this may be a question for Ethan, but it was my understanding that was possible. It was just considered a very burdensome process by the sponsors, and the goal was to decrease that burden. Is that correct?
Ethan, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, absolutely. So currently how it works is you can convert in R7 or R8 zoning, which actually my understanding, I haven't looked at the zoning map for your neighborhood in a bit, but I know at least some of those sites some of the lots I've looked at in Patterson Park are R7 or R8. And I think actually potentially a substantial amount of the neighborhood, though. I'll actually look that up and share a screenshot of the zoning map. But regardless, in those 2 zoning districts, you can, or rather owners of the houses can submit legislation to rezone the house. Or not, sorry. They can get legislative permission to subdivide a single family home into multifamily units, or they can rezone the house also through legislation. doing that involves getting a letter of community support from the council member, or sorry, from the community association, which the council member then needs. You have to pay a fee, which is somewhere between $400 and $500 to draft the bill. You need to get the opinion of the zoning administrator. It's a multi-step process. So it is currently pretty burdensome and kind of a long process. So, you know, if you have that money and can have some patience and do all the right parts, it's very possible. That being said, we've also seen a lot of folks just in Patterson Park is not immune from this, where landlords just go around the process entirely and subdivide it without permits. I mean, we have ways of enforcing that, but you know, it's something that we're seeing as well. And this bill would, by right, without having to go through that legislative process in any zoning district, allow you to subdivide into apartments, as Ernest said, based on the square footage of the house.
Yeah, Lena.
So I just want to have like a little bit of it's not really a counter opinion. I came from San Francisco, which has a huge houseless problem. It's kind of similar to Baltimore, like where I grew up. It became a very hot city very quickly, and Baltimore kind of experiencing the same thing. Hence these initiatives to have like so much more affordable housing, especially in areas that people would consider nice. And I agree with people saying that we should focus on rehabbing those vacant houses. However, to say that we can't have two people live in a 1,500 square foot area as a row home, it's not like people are choosing to have multiple families because that's where they like, because some cultures, first of all, want multi-generational families in those row homes, and they might want to live in 1,500 square feet in close proximity. And if those are the immigrant people that are moving in, then we can try and expedite that process for them, because it does sound like a very lengthy and difficult thing to do if you can't speak English. I am not, however, for corporate coming in, buying a bunch of houses and building corporate land, which I think speaks to your concern. I don't want that either. So if the issue is of community investment and keeping people in areas that they want to live in while also making Baltimore nice, I would be open to an amendment of this bill that reserves some of these rental properties to be rent to buy, so that those people are invested in their community. So you can take that back to Zico and Ethan, please. Thank you.
So along those lines, I just have a question. I promise you, I'm not trying to push any particular way or anything. I'm just curious. How many of you live in a house that has 1,500 square feet? Okay.
Or less. Yeah, more or less, exactly.
Okay.
No, that was a
That's a
question. I live
Oh,
in a house.
1,500 or more. Okay. It was purely just curious. I'm not trying to rhetorically push you one way or another. I don't actually know what the housing stock I haven't been in most of your houses, so I don't know what kind of places you're living in. If you want to show us, we do a housing tour. You should participate. Do we have any other? I see. Okay.
Hold on a minute, there's something else today, I think, looking at that, because we're going to BG&E and other, the government is trying to go to electricity. That means if you don't have a second bathroom and or a kitchen, you're going to have to put that in your house, right? And now they're veering towards electric. I know because I just bought a gas stove. It's very, very difficult. So in order to do that in your house, if you're a private person, you're going to have to spend a lot of money to have a second, a rental property in your, make a second rental property in your house, two family living, let's just say, right? I mean, that's going to be very expensive. I have 1,500 feet, but I have only one bathroom. So that would necessitate another bathroom. I do have a flush in the basement, but that would have to be redone again. I mean, you're looking at some serious money.
I believe that is, well, so I think the argument that Councilman Dorsey would make, and again, this is what he's saying, not necessarily what I'm saying, but that if you have in certain areas where there are a lot of vacant houses, that yes, it would take a lot to add a second unit in there, but if they are vacant and uninhabitable in the first place, then you would have to gut rehab the whole thing anyway. And so, in order to make that make economic sense, so the argument goes, if you're correct, if you are collecting rent from two families or two tenants, that may make it more viable. I am not a property developer. I don't know if that's true. I think that is the argument that some would make.
I'm
Yes.
just flagging the time and also there's a couple questions here from the last topic.
Okay,
Need to go up further.
yeah, but I saw your hand,
It
so
was
go
the-
ahead.
The last comment up there is a concern of mine as well.
Mhm.
Who makes sure that investors, venture capitalists, real estate agents, hedge funds. Who do not live in the area, so corporations essentially from buying houses. Turning them into multi-unit dwellings and then selling them. And not that the creation of, condos in our neighborhood is bad, but that the people who are doing that would are removed from living in the neighborhood, so aren't accounting for over congestion or parking or aspects of that the process that currently exists.
Right.
Has to take into account.
So I will say that I read through the whole bill. I don't speak legalese, so this is my best interpretation, but I did not see that particular issue addressed in this bill. Maybe it is addressed somewhere else for in housing regulations, but I do not believe your concern specifically is addressed by this bill.
Ernest, I can speak to it a bit.
Okay.
Based on the way city code works, on unhosted Airbnbs, so those where folks don't live in it as their permanent residence but put parts or all of their house on Airbnb, those have been outlawed since I believe 2018. So if you had one before then, it's still allowed, but the scenario where someone buys a house, splits it into apartments and then rents them all on Airbnb, which I agree would raise rents and be really bad for neighborhoods. That would not be allowed based on existing legislation that's separate from this.
Okay. Yes, you would have the last comment.
Quick point, when I first read the bill from Dorsey, I was really interested in being like the proximity to either grocery stores or to any of the downtown areas. And I hope that, I interpret this as kind of the first go in conversation of when it's more triggers. So whether it's, hey, if you're a homeowner, you can then have one more unit or some other ways to encourage walk the neighborhoods. That seemed pretty exciting to me. And I hope that another revision will come out and that we can get kind of creative with how to make those triggers work for neighborhoods, not just that are already experiencing property taxes increase, but that increase assessments.
Okay. So Elena is flagging the time for me, so I'm going to now call a vote. So I'm going to say that we have three options, okay? And now remember that what's at stake here is basically, does PPNA write a letter stating our official position, either for or against? Or we could decide we do nothing. And maybe, we'll see how the process works out. But so let's go with this again. In order to vote in this, you must be a resident within PPNA boundaries. It's on the honor system. But so if you are in favor of us writing a letter, and it will probably be addressed to Councilman Cohen's office. If you are in favor of us writing a letter supporting the Abundant Housing Act, please raise your hand. And you can use the raise hand function in Zoom as well. Okay. If you are in favor of us writing a letter opposing the Abundant Housing Act, please raise your hand. Okay, hold it up there for a second. Elena, could you do a count, please? Give it a second.
60.
Okay. If you are in favor of us taking no position, please raise your hand.
Can there be an option where we write a letter with like clarifying questions and amendments? Is that not an option?
Point of order, a motion is already on the floor. We have to finish that before we can discuss anything about it.
Okay.
Based on the outcome of this.
I think that one thing, so, we now have the vote. I think that one thing we can do is we can say that we oppose it in its current form.
Mhm.
If there. Yes,
Are more people in favor than?
oh, okay.
Okay.
In favor of letter, in favor of, okay.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that means in favor of letter opposing or in favor of letter supporting. That's the problem. Oh, I see. Okay. But I think that it's always understood that if we write a letter of opposition, then that means that we oppose in its current form. And maybe this is a continuing conversation. Perhaps it gets amended and we take a look at it again. Anyway, we have to keep moving. Thank you very much for your input. We are going to move on to the next item on the agenda. And let's just make sure I got this right.
BGE lawsuit.
Yes,
Ernest, can you confirm what the vote count was? What the next step is?
So letter, writing a letter for the bill is 5, letter opposing in its current form is 16, taking no position is 2.
Thank you.
yep. So we will work on that letter and we will send it to Councilman Cohen. The other issue we're going to talk about and which we're going to vote on today is you probably have heard about the BGE regulators. So BGE, as you may know, has been going around installing new external regulators, gas regulators. Yes.
This article was in the paper yesterday about this bill and the people now who joined the petition. May I pass it around while we're talking about
Certainly.
this?
That's about the BGE.
Yes.
Certainly, please pass it around. Yeah, I'm sorry. When it comes over here, I'll walk it over to there. That's fine. In brief, BGE's argument is that they are changing to a high pressure gas system and they are required to install external regulators because it is safer. People who oppose that say there is nothing in the regulations which actually say that. And now this came about because some people emailed me and said, please pass this along. We've got a lawsuit. The lead attorney on the case is Dharuv Vignaraja. You may know him as someone who ran for mayor and then for state's attorney. Well, state's attorney, then mayor, and then state's attorney again. He was also a former member in the state's attorney's office. Anyway, and he has filed a lawsuit against BGE. The court has ordered BGE to stop installing these external regulators for the time being until we sort this out. One thing that some people ask me is, what if BGE has already installed an external regulator on my property? And I asked that to the people who were asking us to join the lawsuit. And they said, at this time, we are not seeking any action in regards to those. Could it be that in the future they will seek damages or something? I don't know, maybe. I'm not a lawyer, but that was the answer that I got. So with that being said, are there any comments about this lawsuit or about what BGE is doing? Yes.
Are they going to every house? Like, is that the ultimate goal? Is that they're gonna have to put one of you in front of every single house?
Yes.
That's a hope.
Every house. Okay, and it's always gonna be in the front? Or
Not
they
necessarily.
but each home is gonna eventually need one?
Yes, so it's going to depend on where your regulator is in the basement right now. So for example, in my house, that particular thing is towards the front of my house in the basement. But I guess theoretically, if it was in the back, then they would put it in the back. I think it's just a matter of like, if they were to try to put it in the back, they would have to run extra piping. I saw a hand over in this direction. Is that you? Yeah.
So.
Yes.
I'd like to say something. Hi.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi there. So my name is Micaela. I'm a neighbor here in Patterson Park area, and I actually did have BG&E come into my home in 2021 to put in the regulator. And it was a disaster of an experience. One, we learned that anyone that refused service at the time that they were doing it would be threatened with a $5,000 lawsuit if they didn't decided to have it. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what we were told from BG&E. Two, when they came into my home, mind you, this was still very much in the throes of the pandemic. They came in without masks, even though I was wearing one. They came in with dirty boots and completely ruined the carpet in my basement. They cut a 3-foot by 5-foot hole in my basement and did not patch it up. I had to pay out of pocket for those expenses. And then they ripped up the sidewalks and the streets and did the bare minimum to fix it up. So from my personal experience, I understand that the lawsuit may or may not affect me because I've already had it done, but I would like to speak would like to speak on behalf of my neighborhood that has all really had a very terrible experience having this done on their block, and would ask that Patterson Park go with the lawsuit against BG&E.
Okay. Yes,
I'd like to say our experience.
and I'm sorry, can you tell us your name, please?
I'm Werner. I live on East Pratt Street.
Okay,
Our experience was even worse than that. They actually did shut our gas off because we refused to let them install the meter in January. So we literally had to go to Target and buy electric space heaters that night because we had no heat with 4 children at home. We ended up calling the PSC's office and finding out that that is illegal to do in January. They came out the next day and the agreement was they would turn it back on, but we had to let them put the regulator in. So that's how we ended up with the regulator.
Okay.
So their threats were not threats. They were real. They would come and shut up, no matter when they would shut your gas off. The big argument net rate that I made at the time and still pushing is that these don't have to be in exterior regulators. When they did Butcher's Hill, they did all internal regulators with external vent. They did it on the historic homes in Butcher's Hill. And then sometime between doing that work and when they decided to come over here, they changed their guides to be outside so that people could access it more easily. But if you go to Butcher's Hill, they still have exterior shutoffs for the gas and the sidewalk that are non-obtrusive, and they have just the little cutout in the stone for the vent. Everything else is like it already is inside the house. And they just don't want to do what they already have been doing because they want to save a little bit of money on being able to access the equipment more easily. That's pretty much all it is.
okay. Any other comments from the room or from, okay, let's see.
Yes.
Okay, so a question from the Zoom is, if we oppose this, what is another option to improve our gas lines? I am not an expert on gas lines or the regulations involving utilities, so I'm afraid I do not have an answer for you. Ethan, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Ernest. I just wanted to speak to a few things on this. So one update, and I'm not sure if folks saw this news because it came out on Friday. We were encouraging, along with a lot of the neighbors who are leading the charge on this, for folks impacted to file complaints with the Public Service Commission. And in response to those complaints, the PSC announced on Friday that they'll be calling a hearing on Tuesday, August 15th at 10 a.m. It's in downtown Baltimore at 6 St. Paul Street. Anyone's welcome to attend and give public testimony. I know our office is planning to be there. So that's one thing. PSC complaints work. So if anyone who has been affected and shared stories so far has not already filed a PSC complaint, please do so. Please continue to do so. The PSC is really where BG&E is regulated. So they're the ones with largely the authority to tell BG&E that they can or cannot do something. And the PSC is appointed by the governor. And actually, just as of July 1st, I believe 3 members of the PSC, including the chair, turned over from Larry Hogan appointees to Westmore appointees, which should change the dynamic of the body pretty substantially. One other thing to share is that our analysis of this regulator issue, which is largely informed by the great work of the Maryland Office of the People's Counsel, which is a division of the Attorney General's office that does consumer advocacy, is that BG&E is doing this regulator work and this gas line work more broadly because the gas infrastructure in Baltimore is aging, but in many cases it would be equally valid or helpful or protect the infrastructure for them to just repair the lines. But they're replacing them pretty much wholesale without any sort of regard for prioritization because they're able to recoup those costs and profit from it basically. And that's in spite of the state and the city having climate goals that basically say we want to be climate neutral by I think 2045. So Zeke is going to be announcing some action that we will be taking next week to oppose it, and I'll let y'all know. Sorry, I can't say more yet, but we'll definitely want to have folks from Patterson Park involved in that. I know y'all are a sustainability-minded bunch, and it's what we really see as sort of the root cause of the issue under this regulator business. But we think in general that BG&E has just communicated absolutely terribly. The threats to, and actually action to shut off gas is completely illegal. And it's just been an absolute disaster. So thanks for everyone who's spoken up.
Okay. So we're running up on time. So I'm going to say something really quick, which is that it's not clear to me if a neighborhood association can be a party to a lawsuit. However, individuals are welcome to join the lawsuit. In fact, the person who emailed me said also, like, please give this information out to everybody. So if you want to join the lawsuit as like your own individual person, we will be putting that out. We will be sending that out in email, like who you can contact about that. Yes, but you have to make it quick.
Also, yeah, just make a point for anyone who did have the installation done and had damage to their property or it was installed poorly. There are specific specs for how the work is supposed to be conducted, and you can file a complaint with the PSC, and I would encourage you to do that. So if the installation is haphazard and crazy angles, is not straighten up into your house, or they messed up the interior of your property, or did anything with the sidewalk or damaged your trees, file a complaint with the PSC because they are actually held to account for that.
Okay.
File those complaints.
All right, so I'm going to call a vote again. Now, as I said, it's not clear if PPNA can become a named plaintiff in the lawsuit itself, but what we're going to say is that if you all vote in favor, we will either try to join the lawsuit, or if not, we will provide a written statement saying that we are in support of this lawsuit and that we oppose BG&E's actions. Okay, so all in favor of supporting that lawsuit, please raise your hand. Hold it up there while we do a count, please.
Twenty-one in favor.
Okay. And all those who oppose joining that lawsuit, please raise your hand. I think that was a leftover from the previous. Okay, very well. All right. So now we are going to have a little presentation from our neighbor and our delegate, Robbyn Lewis. Let me just pull this up.
So what I love about my neighborhood is all of the wonderful examples we display of democracy in action. And you guys have been really awesome tonight, working together and talking through things. Thank you, Ernest, for being an effective leader, and thanks to all the board members for their work and efforts. So I'm Robbyn Lewis. I'm one of your state delegates. I'm also your neighbor. I live on the unit. Hey, my neighbor. I live on the unit block of North Potomac Street, and Back during the 6 years that I was on the board of PPNA, we always introduced new people in the room at the beginning of a meeting. So if you don't mind, Mr. President, could we take a moment and just see if there's any new people, new neighbors who might want to introduce themselves and say hi? And
Is anybody here for the first time at a PPNA meeting? Okay. We used to have you all stand up and say your name and where you live. Unfortunately, that takes time, and like I said, they will kick us out of here if we run over. So we used to be in a church basement where they didn't care if we lasted until 9 or 10 p.m. But unfortunately, we have to be out of here by 8 p.m. No exceptions.
so
So
the president has rules, but.
thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. We will be around to talk and introduce ourselves like individuals.
Can you please pass around an attendance sheet?
We'll do that next time. I'm sorry, I didn't print one out.
We can use her pad, I'm sure she'll give us some.
Well, if you do,
I'm gonna put my email down so I get this information.
okay. Please make sure that you pass that to the secretary, Elena, over there. All right.
So thank you very much, and can I move the screen, the slides, or I don't mind coming.
I don't know how this works, but I think you're gonna have to just like go. Yeah, I think you're gonna just need like.
I can use
keys.
zero. Yeah, that's all. It's okay. Anyway, good evening, everybody, and thanks again for giving me a little time. I'm only gonna take maybe 7 minutes maximum, and then however much time President Ernest give you guys for questions. So again, Robbyn Lewis, your delegate and your neighbor, and I came tonight to talk with you a little bit about ways to make our streets feel safer, more human, more comfortable for those of us when we are moving around on foot, on bike, pushing baby strollers, waiting for the bus, walking to our cars, etc. Ways to make our neighborhood feel like it's safe to move around in, physically safe. About 3 years ago, I was approached by a bunch of neighbors north of Fayette, east on Highlandtown, south of Fayette, Washington Hill, everyone who lives around and is affected by Fayette Street and Orleans Street and the high-speed traffic that we experience there. Do any of you guys live close to Orleans or Fayette and experience high-speed traffic and the problems that go with it? Ernest?
Yes, and it's awful.
And who's that?
Sorry, hi, on Zoom. My name's Liz Smith, and I live between Fayette and Orleans, and I have a dog, so I walk to Patterson Park every day, and
Okay.
it's awful. Like it's literally like trying to, and then Orleans Street, if you have to walk down Orleans Street, the sidewalk is too skinny, so they come like racing by, and you think you're gonna get hit by a car if you're walking down there. So yes.
It's real. Some of you may
real.
be aware that, and thank you for sharing that, Liz. Some of you may be aware how common vehicle crashes are on Fayette and Orleans. How common it is for cars to come speeding back and forth and crash into people's homes.
And you
There's a
can
house-
hear it, like you could hear it from my house when they crash. So it's crazy.
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
There's a house at the northwest corner of Elwood and Fayette that has been hit head on, flat, straight into its stoop, at least 3 times that I'm aware of in the last few years. So there was a lovely neighbor, an elderly lady in her 80s on the 100 block of Elwood who was mowed down, just crossing the street trying to go to Aldi's one day. A little girl was riding her bike and like a good girl got off her bike and was waiting for the light to cross the street with her bike, mowed down right at the corner of Fayette and Highland. And just a couple of weeks ago, some of you guys may know Jane Miller, the TV news reporter. She just retired, but she's still out there. Jane Miller tweeted at me that her spouse witnessed a little girl getting mowed down on Baltimore and Central on her way to City Springs School one school day morning. A little girl survived, but ended up in the hospital. There are so many examples of cars driving into, smashing into homes, ripping off people's stoops. Another neighbor, his dog was run over who lives on Orleans, a dog was killed. Folks getting maimed and injured, very common. We don't hear about fatalities. Injuries are much more common, and it's a fact of life if you live anywhere in proximity or move around in proximity to these streets. So a few years ago, a bunch of neighbors were screaming and yelling, demanding change, demanding action. What was interesting though, these neighbors weren't really talking to each other. They're all just yelling at me. And I'm down for it. It's fine. Like, I'm here to listen. It's something I'm very passionate about as well. What I realized was that everyone was working independently. And for example, PPNA at the time had a transportation chair who was a urban planner who actually went out and did a survey and designed a report of recommendations. I don't know if you have access to that, Ernest, or any board members. The transportation was Colorado.
Yeah, we have that in our.
Yeah, it's actually really good. So PPNA was working on that, but meanwhile in McKeldrick Park in the care community, they were crying out for help without the same sort of resources and not getting any action. And this is happening all over the corridor. So I decided the best thing to do, bring people together, figure out solutions, because we're all affected. Let's have a joint solution. Let's join our voices and our power and demand slower traffic, safer and more walkable streets. And that's where the Livable Streets Coalition came from. It's me responding to a demand that came up from the grassroots, from communities all around this road corridor. A coalition is just a network, it's very informal. It's just we get together, we talk and we plan. What's beautiful about it though, there are a lot of people and organizations who think our work is important enough to support us. And that includes the Baltimore City Department of Transportation, the City Department of Planning, City Department of Health, all at the table. All of the elementary schools in the corridor, William Packer Elementary School, Patterson Park Public Charter, at the table with the coalition. National organizations like the AARP, the Association of Retired Persons, at the table. In fact, they seconded an expert to join us with our planning for over a year. And what we've been able to do, and with the trainings, and some of you in this room are members of the coalition, but for those of you who aren't, very low bar to entry, just email me or hop on the Facebook page. But this is what we've been doing for the last couple of years. COVID slowed us down significantly, but we were nevertheless able, as a coalition, to design a traffic calming project. The priority area is right in front of William Packer School. That is Lakewood, between Fayette and Orleans. And if you've moved around there, you can imagine being a little person trying to not get killed every day. Very dangerous, unfriendly, and unhealthy. We want to do some traffic calming artwork, and that means painting crosswalks, etc. And we have the ability to get started doing that now because there's an opportunity for some funding that will pay for it. And what I wanted to do was use this opportunity to just show you a little bit about what that project might look like. I think I'm going to have to go.
Yeah, I think you have to click on the.
Also put slideshow in the top right.
It works on full slides.
It should, yeah, and then maybe the arrow down or try that, and then it should play that, yep. Because I've literally never used a computer before. And every
It doesn't,
every time.
but okay.
So here's a vision for what the Livable Streets Coalition planned in terms of traffic calming artwork for the William Packer school block. This image you may have seen, it's pretty famous. This is street art done by Graham Carell Allen, who's a friend of mine and someone who helps use artwork to make streets more livable and safer, to slow down traffic. We have the opportunity to do something just like this. And what we'd be talking about is, let's say this long axis is Lakewood. And the bottom here, let's say that's Fayette, and the top, let's say it's Orleans. We have the opportunity to narrow that crosswalk using artwork, visually narrow it, and slow down cars. And at the same time, we could also do some more tree planting. They've lost all the trees. Apparently the groundskeepers have poisoned the trees that were planted there. So we could replace some trees, do some artwork, and really use art and street transformation to build community. Some of you may know that during my 6 years as a leader in PPNA, I led a whole greening movement. I started the greening movement that planted hundreds of trees, increased our tree canopy from 2% to 20%. And
300.
okay, but the other people planted the trees too.
I don't know, yeah, I don't know, what you call it, but since then, 300 have been planted.
Because and what's beautiful is, one of the things I did when I was a leader, the green movement was to create a green master plan. We got funding from the Neighborhood Design Center, wrote a green master plan that awesome people had continued to work on. That's why we have the greenest neighborhood in Baltimore. Well, that's just community organizing to transform our public space. We can do that again in this way. I wanted to invite you guys to come to the next Livable Streets meeting, where we will dig deep in the planning for this project. We're going to work out an implementation timeline, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to need a lot of help. This is a community street transformation project. Other neighborhoods have done this. This corridor, a little lower resourced. We've got to come together to make it better. So the meeting will be on August 19th. Thank you, Ernest. August 19th here. There will be a hybrid and an in-person, a virtual and an in-person, food and all that good stuff. But we're putting together a project team to make this happen, to make our street beautiful and safer. So stay tuned if you're interested. If you have questions, happy to field them now. But you can also contact me personally. Just Google me, I'm everywhere. Message me, but not on Twitter.
Are you on Threads?
Yeah, of course I am. I had to get off Twitter because I hate old Muskie. He took my blue check. But you can find me anywhere with Ernest on the Livable Streets Facebook group, and would love to have your input. Streets belong to us. Let's take them back.
So we will have that. Time sent out by email. We will also have it. You should check out our calendar. So go to pattersonparkneighbors.org. There is a link that says calendar. It's got all the events that happen around, not just PPNA stuff, but like in the park as well. And the meeting that Delegate Lewis is talking about is also on there. I'm sorry, we need to keep moving. So if you have questions, we will be able to talk like individually afterwards, or we can go outside and continue chatting.
In the morning.
But we have, I have one other community announcement from the library.
That's Emily.
Emily, right? Is Emily in the house?
That's me.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Emily Rosen. I work for the Pratt Library System. I am helping to start a free market that is going to be based out of the Highlandtown Southeast Anchor branch of the library. I don't know if anyone has heard of this project yet. Well, great. So I'm really glad I came. It's going to be called Pratt Free Market, and I don't know who has been to the Southeast Anchor branch before. So you know the cafe space that has just been empty forever. We are turning that into a completely free grocery store, all funded by lovely donors at the library, and we are so excited. It's going to be, and I forgot my renderings, which I apologize about, but it's going to be bright and shiny and welcoming and a really dignified, beautiful space to get free food. We will not be taking any information. It is open to anyone in any space of life. And is looking to be, we're hopefully going to be open in the spring. So right now we are we have an architect, we have renderings of the space, we are hiring a contractor, and we are supposed to start construction ideally in August. And as most people know, things like that take way longer than we always think. So we are slated to be open in the spring. The main reason I'm here, which one is obviously to tell you about the project, but also we are doing a few little things that will count as like pop-ups or introductions to the program. Our main partner is the Maryland Food Bank. They offer a program called Pantry on the Go that will allow us to basically start operating once a month as a free market in Highlandtown. So the first program is July 28th, so the end of this month. We are still looking for a few volunteers to help. I have job descriptions here and I have my business card. If anybody's interested, I would love to give you one and tell you more about it. I'm not going to take up time because I am a library employee and I do know the 8 o'clock cutoff is serious. So please come find me at the end of this. I would love to tell you more about it. And if you're interested in volunteering, I have plenty of information for you. So thank you so much for giving me the time. Yeah.
And those renderings you talked about are going around, that's on my phone.
Oh, my God, great. Okay, yes. Thank you. Okay, good. I better than I thought.
Okay, I know that, Kim, did you have anything about Sokol?
Just to remind
Go
everyone
ahead.
about our programs. Good evening, everybody. My name is Kim Brock. And I am a neighbor. I live on the Union Block in North Curly. I'm also a coach at Sokol Baltimore. I recognize your family, yeah. Sokol Baltimore is located on Noble Street, which is in our neighborhood. It's the only dedicated gymnastics facility in the city. And so we are starting on some brand new adult programs this week. So I wanted to definitely share about that. And also remind you that we have youth grant programs going on throughout the summer too. So we serve kids as young as 3 all the way through adulthood, and all genders as well. So some of the adult programs that are brand new, we have a dance fitness class on Mondays. We have a introduction to gymnastics for adults for beginner and intermediate. That is a whole series. So each week you'll learn kind of a new skill. On Tuesdays, I'm going to be attempting to coach a workout class called Workout Like a Gymnast. So we're going to focus on strength, flexibility, and balance, and in a way that pretty much anybody can do. It's not just launching you into back handsprings or anything like that, but working on strength to get to those skills. And then we also have an open gym program, which is actually quite popular. If you haven't been by the gym before, you can come and try gymnastics out. There are coaches there to guide you on different skills and all the different equipment. So you can check us out at sokolbaltimore.org. SOKOL, that is Falcon in Czech. If you forget, you can look it up that way. But yeah, thanks so much, and hope to see you guys over at the hall.
Any other announcements for the community? Yes.
Yeah, hi, everyone. My name is Alex Voloskis. I am here from Baltimore Development Corporation, the city's economic development agency. I just wanted to take a minute to introduce myself as the Southeast Baltimore Economic Development Officer. I am also a new resident of Patterson Park, so also doubling as that. But I wanted to very briefly touch upon some of the ways that BDC can support businesses here in Southeast Baltimore. One, we offer a variety of technical assistance to folks, so we can help businesses with things such as the permitting process, helping them navigate water billing, really any type of public process. We can try and help you navigate that if you're having any challenges. And then we also have some forms of financial assistance. Our main grant program is our facade improvement grant that helps new or existing businesses transform their storefronts, or if they're a new business, really just get up and running with adding signage, all the other stuff that happens when you're moving into a retail space. And we also have some lending capacity. Yeah, so those are the main things. I have my business card. If anyone wants to grab one and talk more in depth. But yeah, I just want to give a quick overview and introduce myself.
Can you repeat the name of the organization one more time, please?
Baltimore Development Corporation.
Thank you.
Okay. The other, yes, yes, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shay Williams. I am a partnership and recruitment manager for a local nonprofit called REN. What we do is we focus in on the lower 25% of Baltimore City high schoolers. So that looks like a under 1.0 GPA. Thread is both on the east and west side of Baltimore, so we range on 6 sites. I'm here today because I am the partnership and recruitment manager for Patterson Park High School. And so in Thread, we have multiple roles. What we'd like to do is partner volunteers from the community in those sites with young people from those high schools to act as a support and a guidance for them throughout the milestones of their life. We like to bridge the gaps, the achievement gaps that are due to that historical percentage they're usually prone to. I'm here today because Patterson Park High School really needs volunteers. we need people from the community that is going to support these young people through the barriers that they're facing, and just be that kind of shoulder for them to lean on. We don't want to replace any of their family. We just ask for an extension of it. Patterson Park's main two roles that we're really focusing on right now that we desperately need are family member roles, which are volunteers that work directly with our young people. So direct coaches or positive guidances for the young people with the challenges that they're facing. The second role that Patterson Park was really looking for are grandparent roles. Those roles act as coaches and guidances for our volunteers that work directly with our young people. So grandparents oversee our family members. So we've ranged in a good bit of how direct you want to be with our young people to how more distant you want to be, but still having a voice and still helping in our community. It's very, very critical for us to get our volunteers so that way our kids and our young people can feel supported and actually hit the milestones that we know that they're capable of. So I have my business card. I would love to pass it around to you guys. If you guys have any questions, reaching out to find any upcoming events that we're doing. We're always having spaces that are available to come in, thread hours, weekly thread hours when the school year starts. To just come in for an hour, talk with your young person, or go in and talk with other young people. Any way that we can make these touch points to show these young people that we're here for them. As well as in the back, I have a postcard and an informational one-pager that kind of gives a brief overview, but I highly, highly encourage y'all to please reach out and just see if this is the fit for y'all, or please spread the word.
I was gonna say, this is a great program. You spoke, somebody there spoke at the PPNA meeting a few years ago, and I signed up, I went through the training, and I wasn't able to do it because of time constraint, but give me a card.
Absolutely, I would love to.
I need more grants.
And we actually redid our training. So we broke it all down. We made it way more simple. It's gonna be way more effective, not taking too much time, because our main thing in Fred is we like to create bi-directional relationships. So we don't want you to feel as though this is just you coming in and being, you know, another parent to another person. It's not what we want. It's creating real relationships that last and being able to be a part of a big movement, a big group that really shows that generations that before didn't really have the same outcomes now do as everyone else. I really, really highly encourage you guys.
I have friends who partnered with you and were a family member, and they saw their kid, teen, whatever you want to call it, off to college all throughout, and spoke really highly of the programs.
So thank you.
So thank you for the work that you do.
Yeah, thank you. It's not possible. Our work is not possible without the help of volunteers. Our young people, when they come in, they sign up for 10 years with us. So they're stuck with us for 10 years. But our volunteers, we only ask for a year. So even in that year, it is the bonds that can be made and just the trust, the relationships, all of it. It sometimes we don't see it, and sometimes we don't realize the support systems that we already have. And so being that to somebody else, the impact is outstanding.
I wanted to see, I'm interim director for partnerships and recruitment grant. Yeah, she's amazing. Our recruitment is amazing. I would just say to give us a look, because we've done some things to make volunteer opportunities accessible to all different commitment levels. You know, there's a multitude of things going on to help folks who want to get in and maybe do a one-off kind of situation, who want to do shorter stints in some way, shape, or form. Those types of formats are available now. So I also encourage you to take a look if you're all interested.
And thank you, Mr. Lee, for giving me the time to talk.
Certainly. Is there anybody else? You're gonna have like 2 minutes if anybody else wants to make a yes.
I can go real quick. My name is Jimmy Edgerton. My wife works at Creative Alliance. We live on Linwood Ave. Creative Alliance has their big show event this weekend. It's all member produced art. There's also an actual show, not just the exhibition space. It's this Saturday. Come check it out and think about becoming a member of Creative Alliance. You can put your own art up next year.
Talk to me real quick so I can make sure to put that in the meeting notes.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna make 2 quick announcements before we close. One is There is food, please eat it. And for those of you who are joining us by Zoom, I'm sorry. It was lemon tarts and banana bread. I think there's something else. Secondly, this past July 1st, we had our community dumpster out, actually just right out here. And it was very successful, but if you missed it, there will be another one on August 12th. That one will be in south section where Kelly is. Exact street, exact location, still to be determined, but it's August 12th. Remember, the thing about these dumpsters is they can arrive very early. The one in Library Square arrived at like 7:20 a.m. and filled up and was out of there by 9:30. So, you know, if you have anything you want to get rid of, keep that date in mind, August 12th, get there early. All right, with that being said, I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank you all for participating in this discussion and for voting. We're going to start cleaning up, but you'll still have a little bit of time to talk amongst each other, exchange information, all that sort of stuff. But we will end the formal part of this meeting. So thank you very much. I will call this meeting to a close.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Yeah. You're already trying to.